This man takes "I fathered you" to a whole other level. He declares as he adopts him into his crew of pirates. They adopt his name and proudly tattoo their faces on their backs. We're talking about the man with the power to destroy the world, a man so feared and respected that not even death could bring him to his knees. Today, I will tell you the story of Edward Newgate, or Whitebeard, and why he is my second favorite character in all of One Piece. But more importantly, today is the day we come together and unanimously decide that this man is the most masculine force in fiction. So stick around to the end of the video as we dive into this larger-than-life character, starting with his early introductions and finishing off with the final moments of the Marineford saga. In the very beginning, we would see little glimpses of Edward Newgate, or Whitebeard, here and there. We initially saw this giant man who looked injured or like he was slowly dying, with a bunch of sexy nurses, a giant scar, an emperor's coat, and IVs shooting throughout his body. The initial image was enough for Oda to get across in my mind exactly what kind of pirate this guy is, Captain Whitebeard. He was going to be otherworldly, a relic of the past, but also a dangerous man who commanded respect, fear, and power throughout the world. It's actually funny how Shane sends little Rockstar to me with Whitebeard, and this is only the beginning of the disrespect that Shane throws at Newgate. Spoiler alert, Whitebeard does not tolerate it for much longer. Rockstar is like the size of the bottom half of Whitebeard's leg, so larger than life truly fits the description on both a literal, physical, and even metaphorical level. And Oda really knows how to hype him up by showing the title, the Grey Pirate, the strongest man in the world. This guy is straight up palming giant barrels of booze and chugging them like an absolute chat. It's this first impression that really paints the picture of him being someone that you do not want to mess with, a man on a completely different scale from the warlords, from the Marines. Whitebeard is that guy. And so, bringing back this Rockstar guy, I love how Whitebeard yells at him, rips up the letter, and tells him to relay the message to Shanks. Essentially, be a man and come say this to my face. And don't forget some quality booze. Yes, that is the very first impression of Whitebeard, and wow, is it fitting. Aside from that, we also get a glimpse into the Whitebeard Pirates through Ace. We see just how much love Ace has for Whitebeard. Why would someone as free-spirited as Ace, who is young, has a bright future, and potential to create his own pirate legacy, put all his effort into making Whitebeard the Pirate King? It showcases how much the characters in the Whitebeard crew, like Marco and Ace and many others, care for their pops. It's a very interesting contrast to his brother Luffy, who wants all the recognition and glory of the title of Pirate King to himself. Eventually, we finally get to see Shanks breaking through the government forces, and how to admit this type of meetup between two pirate captains is what One Piece is all about. Once we finally see Shanks arrive, he conquers all of Whitebeard's men. It's even brought up here that anyone with a flimsy will can't even stay in the presence of Shanks. But then we have Whitebeard and his top-tier guys, standing firm and confident. And as we expect, Edward Newgate is not even slightly intimidated. And this is why I love Whitebeard. In retrospect, it was fascinating to hear about the previous eras and interesting history between the two as they talk about Shanks's face and how Whitebeard's scars ache by merely looking at him. We find out how he remembers even Boogie from the countless times he fought against the king of the pirates, Gol D, Roger. Oda does a great job of showing us the old head side of Whitebeard. However, this exchange isn't solely focused on the past because this meeting actually acts as foreshadowing for the future events but also heightens Whitebeard as Roger's equal, or at the very least, the one man who came the closest to him. In the final moment of this altercation, Shanks disrespects Whitebeard to his face by telling him what to do and how to command his crew. And like we know in One Piece, when two powerful figures come to a disagreement, the only thing left to do is fight, and this is the moment where we see Whitebeard and Shanks split the heavens with their clash, as Whitebeard declares that he is not afraid of the world spiraling into chaos, a true conqueror of the seas, someone who will not be told what to do under any circumstance. We're talking about pirates here, so being the freest of the free, of course, you're going to expect that from the Yonko. We also see a glimpse into his moral code, the conduct, and his beliefs, and this gets important because it shows that even pirates have their own morality. We learn that there's only one rule that you must follow when joining his crew, and that is you must not kill your crewmates. In other words, anything goes when you claim the name of Whitebeard. Any outrageous crimes and absurd pirate ambitions fly, however, killing each other is the only time he draws the line. Eventually, we also get to learn that Whitebeard is willing to accept any mistake one of his sons makes. For example, if a son is being stupid and getting captured, Whitebeard finds out about this and he's still ready to save his son, enraged, waging war against the world government. And this perfectly leads me to when Whitebeard cemented himself as the most masculine force of nature in fiction, and that is the Marineford War. The way this dude pulls up to the scene is one of the greatest entrances in all of One Piece and all of anime. That calm before the storm, it's quiet, but you can feel the tension in the air as something absurd is about to happen. I could feel the excitement in my bones like no other time in the story. The anticipation that Oda had built to the moments preceding Marineford is insane. You could feel the fear in the Marines' hearts, you could feel the focus, like seeing Goku, only waiting for this monster to arrive. Even the children around the world know of this man's terror as they are singing a song that goes, "Whitebeard the pirate, more terrifying than the devil himself." Everyone, including the warlords, the admirals, they've all been called to prepare for this one mighty foe. And then, boom, out of nowhere, Whitebeard emerges from underneath the island with the greatest entrance, yelling, "I'm coming for you," leading Ace's massive fleet of pirates. Just a few story arcs before, we learned about the coating of the ships at Sabaody, and it is just one after another, multiple coated ships. And to make this even better, his ship is a literal whale emerging from the sea, the Moby Dick. Remember, I called him the most masculine man in fiction. His ship is an enormous dick, and his crew is named after his iconic facial hair. This is truly a man amongst men, the most masculine, testosterone-filled manly pirate in the scene. And it's in this moment where he pulls his dick out that you'll realize this is a full-scale invasion on the world government, exactly what we all love to see from a pirate manga, especially after we witnessed Luffy ordering Silver's Rayleigh to shoot down that flag in Eni's lobby. So of course, someone with Whitebeard's caliber will have to exceed this in every possible way. At this point, I'm losing my mind, I'm lost for words. The final cherry on top is seeing his true power finally unleashed as the fleet admiral of the Marines are warning of the man with the power to destroy the world. We see the most godly devil fruit yet as he slams his arm into the sky, cracking the air and sending an erupting earthquake at the Marineford base. Whitebeard has just launched 2 massive tidal wave tsunamis as his first attack against the Marines. As a reader, saying this for the first time, my mind was blown. The significance of a power like this is so perfect, especially in a story like One Piece with a character like Whitebeard. Giving a pirate the greatest ability to create tsunamis, where most battles take place on islands or at sea, something this destructive truly feels like a godly ability. The most powerful natural disaster in the hands of the world's strongest man who could utilize its force to its fullest potential. Whitebeard can't always just use the full power, especially in a war where he has fleets of his own men. He has to use it in the right moments where he can minimize casualties on his own side and still destroy his enemies. Edward Newgate is still a weird name. To this day, I can't get over how his first name is actually Newgate and his last name is Edward. But it goes well with his territory, relating to the new gate of the new world, if you will. Remember the time when Whitebeard one-shot Ace while he was sleeping? Or what about that time that he clashed with the legendary Pirate King, shaking the entire island to its core? Or how about when he was part of the legendary Rocks crew and went against the world government with Kaido and Big Mom? Despite all these legendary moments, they were only briefly glossed over, and we don't get into the details of most of Whitebeard's pirate tales. The Marineford War perfectly showcases everything that I love about Whitebeard, from his power, feats, unwavering will, and confidence, to the loyalty between him and his crew, and the top-tier writing fleshing out this epic characterization, displaying a war veteran with battle experience and the heart of a lion. Fear is something that you never once see in Whitebeard's eyes, despite him being terribly sick, possibly having stage 3 cancer, his old age, a bunch of idiot sons like Ace, and don't even get me started on Squardo. Whitebeard's might never wavered throughout this entire battle. You can always feel his presence, and you see his strength continue to carry on until the next moment. He believed in Ace, he believed in family, and he believed that as a father figure, he had to live up to his reputation and protect what he always promoted. To put into perspective of how much of a Whitebeard stan I became in such a small period of time, Zoro had 500+ chapters to cement himself as my favorite, but Whitebeard had that impact in only 30 chapters. After Marineford, he was now ahead of Sanji, Robin, Frankie, even the main character Luffy. And we're talking about a series with dozens of side characters being introduced every single arc, and still, no one has ever gotten me as fired up as Whitebeard in Marineford. To this day, no one has had the impact that he had in that relatively short run. It's kind of funny how Whitebeard is such a family man, but this entire war began with brothers turning on each other, brothers being slaughtered by the insane marine admirals. And then, he ended up capturing Ace, who was seeking vengeance, and turning him into the government, even though Whitebeard warned him not to go. Whitebeard doesn't even hesitate to lie and say that he sent him after Teach. The truth doesn't matter in the face of the enemy. Ace knows what really happened, and Whitebeard isn't even considering turning back after coming all this way. This is dedication. This is loyalty. And this is a true pirate brotherhood that Oda shows is flawed indeed, but a powerful bond that the crew shared. Whitebeard is out here saying, "I fathered all you little boys, I birthed you," and he is taking that to a whole other level. This man is called Whitebeard Pops, but with wisdom, only dreaming of having a family one day. He did not want gold, he did not want treasure, he did not want riches, he didn't want anything but booze and a crew that he could call family. It just goes to show, once again, how different this man is. A pirate legend like old Whitebeard, and his treasure is truly something so unique. He ends up being laughed at for wanting something so simple, and the best part about all of this is how specific it is to his character. Another thing that I love about Marineford, and specifically Whitebeard, is how it always felt like it was his story making history. As you might notice, the narration detailing the larger-than-life presence makes you feel like you are witnessing an actual historical event, a battle for the ages, something straight out of a pirate folktale. We see Whitebeard trash-talking the most powerful warriors of the Marines, the admirals, like they are children. And then we get to see some of my favorite moments, where we see him crush actual One Piece giants who are way bigger than him. Now, the time is here. I didn't want to do it, but we have to discuss Squardo. Squardo was one of my least favorite characters in One Piece. He's idiotic, easily manipulated, overly emotional. He's a dummy who was fooled into attacking Whitebeard, turning on his own adopted father who took him in. He's a pirate who was somehow swayed by the Marines. And while I could voice my frustrations with Squardo all day, the truth is, Oda really only created him to prove a point during Marineford. Because he used Squardo in a masterful way to showcase two things: first, the competence of the Marines. Their shady, disingenuous tactics would somewhat mimic the stereotypical pirate. But above all, and most importantly, we witness another one of my favorite moments. And I have to admit, with this scene specifically, the anime really exceeds the manga. As we see Squardo stab Whitebeard in the chest, Whitebeard begins to understand the situation and he calls Squardo a fool to his face, an idiot son. A seemingly furious Whitebeard's face is subverted perfectly because in the anime, what seems like Whitebeard going in for a punch that knocks some sense into Squardo quickly becomes a forgiving embrace. But I still love you, even if you are a dad. The ultimate plot twist and an immediate shock. And the fact that Whitebeard's immediate response is to forgive shows that he truly does look at these pirates as his own children. And more importantly, he states, "I love all my sons." He leads a suicidal charge, yelling, "If you join me in this fight, be ready to put down your lives." He literally takes flight like Michael Jordan himself. He steps down to the battlefield to show everyone firsthand what they came for, a bloody, brutal fight to save Ace. I just love this man. He leaves like a true warrior, battle-ready and making decisive actions that change the tides of the war in an instant. He knows his men better than everyone else, even though he is tanking cannonballs and explosions to the face. If he was to fall, it would leave the Whitebeard Pirates hopeless and distraught. And this is where we finally see Whitebeard in action, tilting an entire island, tossing around more giants. It's nothing but peak fiction from here. It's almost like another friend is dying in this war right in front of them, like the Mary for the Straw Hats. The Moby Dick must have been Whitebeard's ship for decades upon decades. I like to think that he also had some kind of whale club Ottoman form, but that's just a side tension. Going back to Whitebeard and Marineford, we also see a lot of intentional showing of Luffy and Whitebeard side by side. And when you really think about it, Luffy is the GOAT of the series, the greatest pirate ever, the man who will become king. And the Straw Hat Luffy, and of course, Joy Boy, and so, only adds to the high, putting him next to Whitebeard. See, Oda is trying to convey Luffy's dominance by having them side by side, two clashing wills so powerful. But it also works the other way, if you ask me, because up to this point, we've seen time and time again what kind of character Luffy is. So putting Whitebeard next to Luffy is quite the statement by Oda for both characters. I love how immediately after Ace is saved by Luffy, Whitebeard makes his final orders to his crew. You can feel the tone that this will be their final battle together, with Whitebeard's health dwindling, and he finally puts his full intentions on display as he attempts to take down the Marines' army with his earth-shattering stream. Now, with his son free, he could finally go all out. The man who did not seek riches still found the treasure that he always sought, and now it was time to protect it. When it seems like Ace had finally been rescued, we get the shocking series of events where his respect, pride, and hot-headedness quickly lead to the downfall and the death of the Fire Fist. With the entire war feeling like a waste, a massive loss on the shoulders of Whitebeard, we see Whitebeard actually start to tear up, and soon, as immediate sadness becomes pure rage. You can feel every bit of power surging through Whitebeard as he charges like a raging bull at Akainu for taking his son's life. And without a word, he begins to beat the ever-living out of Akainu. He goes straight after him with a powerful, manly, sky-cracking punch. I'm sure Akainu had to suffer the equivalent of 1 PCT. And while Akainu was suffering severe brain damage, Whitebeard gets his skull blown to bits by fireworks. Akainu strikes back with the lava punch, taking out a quarter of Whitebeard's face. A good chunk straight up disintegrated, part of his skull, half of his iconic mustache, and one side of his cheek. That, within itself, is something so graphic. But what makes it even more ridiculous is that he immediately counters with his earthquake stance, slamming the Admiral down as Marineford begins to crumble more and more. And I remember when I first watched this, it was one of the greatest scenes in all of One Piece. As far as full power goes, I was witnessing back-to-back blowers with full-on killing intent. It was something so unexpected from this fun pirate adventure. The harsh reality of murderous power. Whitebeard was ready to bring down the entire island. People lived here, the homes and families of children. Seeing him react on instinct in his final moments was something truly spectacular. The fury that this man puts on display in only a mere 6 pages left me speechless. And I think Sengoku put it best when he said, "Even after losing half your face, you have enough strength to do this," as he finally created an escape pad for his fleet, filled with plenty of his own adopted. The one child that he hoped he'd never see again appears out of nowhere, the only one he won't call son. The man who started this entire saga by killing his own brother, breaking the rule of Whitebeard, capturing Ace, turning him into the Marines, and now he had joined the battle for his chaotic finale. Blackbeard had finally arrived. He is here to murder his own father and take the godlike fruit of the Gura Gura no Mi for himself. And even though Whitebeard should be long gone by now, he somehow musters up the energy to give old smelly Whitebeard the thrashing that he always deserved. And since Whitebeard was already on his last legs, Blackbeard fires back and simply speeds up the process. You know, any normal viewer was expecting Whitebeard to die at this point. And so, yeah, Whitebeard has finally been put to rest after all that fighting. Wrong. Somehow, after being shot instead by the 10 Blackbeard pirates, this only prompts some of the greatest writing in all fiction, some of the greatest quotes and dialogues, one of the greatest speeches I've ever witnessed, something so unique, so hype-inducing that only this moment can really achieve. This leads us to Whitebeard standing like the glorious man that he is and letting out, "You're not the one, Teach. You're not the one that Roger was waiting for." Of course, we're getting a reference to the glory days during his past with the former pirate king, his rival of swords, and we find out that Whitebeard actually spoke to Roger before Roger was executed. We learn that there is someone with the will of D who will carry on Roger's will and see his ambitions through to the end. And this is the beginning of the end, the beginning of the greatest death speech in One Piece. Sengoku, your world government is afraid of the coming war that will engulf the world. I wasn't interested, but when someone finds it, the world will be turned upside down. Someone will find it. The day will come. And you can start to see Sengoku's eyes. He's absolutely shook. This is the only revenge Whitebeard can do for killing Ace. And with this prophetic speech, Whitebeard finally lets out a yell for the entire world to hear. The One Piece is real. The One Piece is real. Whitebeard, in his final moment, sets up the excitement for the next 500 chapters. The confirmation of the One Piece, the confidence in that statement, is only confirmed by how upset Sengoku really is. The war, the prophecy, the greatest death scene I've ever witnessed is not even necessarily just sadness, but it brings out all types of emotions that are so unique. Whitebeard's death was a moment of ultramasculine respect, a feeling that I just witnessed the pinnacle that any man could ever reach, a legendary death that will always cement him in history. And even after losing the war and failing to save Ace, you can't do anything but respect this man. He is ride or die for his crew. He pisses off the corrupt world government in the most satisfying way ever, and his death is so significant, something that will truly inspire with the greatest final words ever. This is only really the half of it because aside from the speech, we get some of my favorite lines of narration. Even in death, even with half of his face gone, he would not fall. He will forever be remembered as a monster for the way he destroyed his enemies that day. In this one battle alone, he suffered 267 sword wounds, was struck by 152 bullets, and 46 cannon blasts upon the proud back of this legendary man. Upon his very life as a pirate, he did not suffer even one coward's wound. Whitebeard deadass died standing for everyone to witness his greatness. And I remember when I first saw this, how amazed I was that not even death itself could bring this man down. This moment was so powerful. His legacy is about family, strength, power, fear, respect, and willpower. Not a single scratch on his back. And you get this panel that shows his hulking neck as the entire world is witnessing the greatest death in combat. I've never seen anything like this. It's just something that fires me up to the core in such a specific way. We can all see his death coming, but the thing that Oda would pull out, something this masterful, this grand, this impactful, was unexpected. Whitebeard, he is a perfect shonen character, from his design to his dialogue, from his story to the legend that lives on to this day. His power, his devil fruit abilities, his presence, and all together, we get a truly legendary pirate written in a Japanese weekly comic book. From having one of the most entertaining entrances in all of One Piece, he only tops that with the greatest death I've ever witnessed in any story. I believe that his death can be described in a single word: testosterone. And this has been the story of how Whitebeard had become the greatest, most masculine force in all of fiction.